Hey everyone, welcome to the module on drones. And I always love teaching this one because the fellows are usually really excited about it. And I totally realize that the majority of that excitement comes from knowing that you're going to fly a drone as part of this. And so I realize we're in a little bit of a different situation here, obviously. But my goal with this video and this module in particular is to set the kind of baby steps in motion for those of you, especially those of you who are interested in becoming certified yourself. So I'll have more information on that in this module. And then whatever becomes of our in-person time, the main part for me at that point is going to be about teaching a drones class. So it's a perfect time to be talking to y'all about this. I'm in the process of creating my second drones class at the university. So I'll share as much as I know and as much as y'all want to know related to drones. One quick note about this video, especially right now, is there is so much information related to ethics and safety that you have to know to be certified. So please do not think that, this quick 10-minute video or so, 10-minute or so video is going to cover anything. This barely is a scratch in the surface of what you need to know for 107, but I'm very happy to guide you through that process as part of your PhDigital experience. So here you go with some really basic information about drones to get you started thinking about ethics, safety, usage, all of those things. All right, so let's talk drones. And it's important to keep in mind that drones go by many names and have many different sizes. So you will sometimes hear drones referred to as UAVs or unmanned aerial vehicles. The FAA likes to refer to them as UASs or unmanned aerial systems, or sometimes the FAA refers to them as SUAS, which is small unmanned aerial systems. So these all could very well mean drones when you see this in any form or, article or anything like that. It just depends on who's writing it. Most of us, of course, just refer to them as the colloquial name of drones. And as I mentioned, they come in all different sizes. So for instance, this is a nano drone. These are the types of drones that you buy at like Walmart or Target for anywhere from $15 to $25. They are incredibly hard to fly, yet somehow your 10-year-old nephew knows how to fly this better than anything. It's really frustrating that I cannot fly these little tiny things knowing that little kids can do it all the time. But they generally can't hurt anybody. They weigh about half a pound, and they're typically not very sturdy. So if you crash them, it's probably going to break the nano drone. When you hear the word drone, this is probably now the first image that will come to mind. This is the new Mavic 2, which is kind of the industry standard drone. This is from a company called DJI, which we'll get into here in just a little bit. This is best bang for your buck drone for overall usage. This is what most newsrooms are using. Well, I shouldn't say most newsrooms, but this is what a lot of newsrooms are using. And this is kind of your industry standard drone at the moment. And then you have what are known as fixed wing drones. This is mostly used by hobbyists. These can fly a lot longer and they can fly a lot faster. But these are more of like your model aircraft users who are using these. Now, some people might be using fixed wing drones for data collection, which again, we'll talk about here in just a second. But for the most part, most drone pilots are flying a Mavic or some other DJI product. So I've mentioned DJI a couple times already in just a couple of minutes. And it's impossible to talk about drones without talking about DJI. So DJI is the Coca-Cola or the Kleenex or the Google of the drone world. It was started in China, and much like many of the tech companies here, especially the social media companies, it was started in someone's dorm room about 14 years ago. DJI has about an 80% control of the drone market, and that number is actually small to me. It seems like that should be way more into the 90s. So I was quite shocked to see it's only at about 80%. And the company is valued at $21 billion. Because it's based in China, the U.S. government has had some adversarial relationships with DJI, especially with the data that is collected from drones. So some government agencies don't allow their people to use DJI if they need drones for their work. But for the most part, the public is buying DJI products. So I want to go over a couple of the ways drones are used, and this runs the gamut from news to marketing to other practical purposes. So when I talk with students about why they should get certified as a commercial drone pilot, these are all now things that they can do with that certification. So storytelling is the obvious first example, and this is from a TV station in Hartford. This is actually their sizzle reel of their drone coverage. They use their drone very heavily when it comes to production of their newscasts. And so, a drone obviously has a lot of very applicable aspects of news coverage, and is so much more cheaper than a helicopter. I think when I worked in TV, we used to spend about $250,000 a year on our helicopter. And with a drone, you spend $2,000 and get somebody certified, and then they have a helicopter in their car at all times to be able to use. So, there's obviously many different ways to treat drone footage. This is a piece that I love showing from Business Insider of just pure beauty shots. Sometimes drones can be used for breaking news coverage, as we saw in the previous example. So it just kind of depends on what your media outlet or what you as a storyteller want to do with the drone. Tower inspections are probably something you don't think about. This is some video from a company called Rika UAS and Pix 4D. Tower inspections are a pretty lucrative business for people with a commercial drone pilot license, because if you think about it, this is a much more economical and safe way to do a tower inspection. So instead of sending a human being up all the 400 or 500 foot towers, you can just fly a drone around, make sure all the lights are blinking, make sure everything's good to go, and if something's out, then you know exactly what to send a person up there with. So tower inspections are pretty great. Real estate agents have flocked to drones, and this is an example from Terry Coyne, who is a real estate agent in Cleveland, and a company called Aerial Agents, who filmed this footage of a high-rise that's available for rent. And there's some amazing drone footage out of real estate. So if you want to go down a rabbit hole one day, just go to YouTube and search real estate aerial or real estate drone tours. And how these pilots are flying through houses and stuff like that is just incredibly impressive. A lot of agencies are using drones for emergency operations. So this is some video from the Austin Fire Department, where they use the drone to help with hotspots during fires, any river rescues or anything like that we have to worry about. Police, fire, ambulance, they're all using drones. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them are using drones to assist in their operations. One thing that's been really impressive for me, and one of the most important uses of drones, is to assist in search and rescue. So drones, especially if they're equipped with sensors, can sense hotspots on the ground, and can help find missing people, especially like missing hikers who are out in wilderness or areas where a ground search would take forever. To be completely honest, a drone can assist that in a really quick and efficient way to be able to do that. Drones also assist in widespread data collection. So this is a video from the FANG research group. And we see a lot of it, especially with sensors on drones, where you're either measuring, distance or wind speed or, temperature or whatever. Drones can assist with that massive amount of data collection. And then the last one is photogrammetry, which is 3D modeling that it uses thousands of pictures from a drone. So this is Ben Kramer, who I've mentioned in the module and a frequent collaborator of ours. He's one of the experts in photogrammetry. So this is a redesign or 3D model of a site in Turkey that he worked on and built, this usable, functional 3D model based off of the drone footage that he collected out in the field. I've mentioned Part 107 a couple of times in the module so far, and Part 107 is incredibly important as you consider getting certified, because what you'll be doing is taking the Part 107 test. So Part 107 is the actual rules that govern drone operation, commercial drone operation in the United States. So the FAA loves its acronyms and numbers and parts. So the part dealing with drones is Part 107. And anytime you study to take the test, you're studying the portion of the Part 107 rules. It costs $150 to take the test. You have to schedule it in advance with a company called PSI. They'll set up the time and the date for you to go take the test. You typically have to go take it at an airport somewhere. And it's $150 pass or fail. So if you fail it, you have to wait and take the test again, and you have to pay another $150 to do so. Once you pass, you get your license, and you need to carry that with you at all times if you're going to be flying drones. It's going to be the very first thing somebody asks you for if you get approached by a police officer, which that's a whole nother topic, talking about police understandings of Part 107 rules, but especially if an FAA officer comes up to you, if there's been a complaint and they dispatch an FAA person out to you, which doesn't happen a lot, but this is going to be the very first thing they ask for if that does happen. You have to renew your test every 2 years. So you go and take what is the recurrent exam, and that renews your test, and that also costs $150 to take, again, pass, fail. There's a ton of things to consider with Part 107, and my class goes over all of these. I just want to mention 5 main rules right now. These are kind of the guiding principles of Part 107, and if you can wrap your head around these 5, then that really sets the course or sets the scene for the rest of studying for Part 107. And the first one is that you must be in proper airspace when you're flying a drone. That means you need to learn how to read these maps, which look incredibly intimidating. But once you learn what all the symbols mean, they actually become really fun to read. I'm that dork who actually sits around and looks at sectional charts from time to time. So, for example, here's San Marcos and our little airport. So you can see that's not too bad. But then you look at like New York City, and the maps become really, really difficult to read. So you learn what the majority of these symbols mean when you're actually studying for Part 107. Second rule is you must maintain VLOS, or visual line of sight. You or someone who is on your crew must be able to see the drone at all times with their naked eye. Now you can wear prescription glasses or contacts, but what we mean by naked eye is you can't be wearing what's known as first person view goggles, where you have like you're looking out from the drone, or you can't have binoculars keeping an eye on the drone. You have to be able to see it with your naked eye. For the most part, you must stay below 400 AGL, which stands for above ground level. So you can fly up to 400 feet in proper airspace. Unless you're flying over an obstacle, then you can go 400 feet above that obstacle in proper airspace, assuming that that doesn't violate airspace. I realize that's a little convoluted, but if you just remember you can't fly above 400 AGL, you're pretty good to go. So for tower inspections, for instance, it's really important to know your airspace, because you're going to want to go above the tower, and most of those towers are higher than or taller than 400 feet. You must stay away from weather. The FAA is very concerned about clouds for many reasons, but for the most part, wind, rain, bad weather, hurricanes. You see people fire up their drones the second a second a hurricane goes through or a tornado's coming. That's like the FAA does not want you to do that. If you think about it from a tornado perspective, if your drone gets swept up into that tornado and then gets spit out, it's now a weapon at that point. So this is for everyone's safety. And you start to learn how to read things like this, which is called a METAR, which is what the pilots are reading when they're sitting in the cockpit and they're doing their pilot voice, talking about the weather with you when you're flying somewhere. We read those as drone pilots as well, so you get to know what all this stuff means. And the last rule I want to go over is you must avoid flying over people. You can't fly over anyone who is not a part of your crew without a waiver. You have to have FAA permission to fly over people. Now, you can fly over your crew members, the direct people who are part of your crew, but you cannot fly over anyone else. And so all the drone footage you see from concerts or sporting events or even just crowds in general is almost guaranteed to be in violation of FAA rules. So like I said at the beginning, this is seriously just scratching the surface of the world of drones. I will gladly make my resources available to you. If you're interested in using the summer to study, just shoot me a Slack message and I'll get you set up with that. In the meantime, if you have any questions at all, feel free to shoot me a message. I'm always more than happy to talk about drones, and I'm looking forward to whatever we decide is going to be the next step. I'm looking forward to sharing more with you about drones and drone education.